we are live, obviously coming off of UFC 322, possibly one of the greatest performances of Islam Makhachev's career. Now, you're probably looking at that fight and thinking to yourself, the most impressive performance of his entire career. How do you figure something like that?
The ring four.
How do you figure the fact that it was Islam Makhachev's best performance when, on the contrary, a lot of people thought that it was a lackluster performance? Well, I want to explain to you within context why it was his greatest performance ever. And remember, context is key to everything and into understanding exactly why it was his best performance. Number one, you got to think about how hard and how tough Jack Della Maddalena was. We'll get to that. We're going to talk about that as well. The other aspect that we're going to talk about with this live stream is what is next for Islam Makhachev, because now it seems that he's opened that as well. Islam Makhachev has now opened the realm of 170 pounds, meaning that he's in a completely different world, a world where now you have not only Ilia Topuria, who wants to get up there, because let's be honest, Ilia Topuria was never a 170 fighter to begin with. However, Ilia Topuria is there in the mix, and he can challenge for a third championship belt. By the way, something that has never been done before, right? Everybody is going for double championships now, right? Well, what about Ilia Topuria? What can he do to top everybody? Well, go for a third belt. And the winner of that, you can create, like how they have a BMF one-time belt. For this one, you can have the pound for pound number one belt, right? The pound for pound number one belt. Because in history, there hasn't been where two guys can actually meet in that same conference. Well, now you can. Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. That is a possibility. But what about Morales? Morales looked great in that card. We're going to talk about that as well, because he is somebody to look out for in the 170-pound division right now. Tom Potts says hello. Hello, Tom. Shout out to you, Tom. Let me know what part of the world you are from, my man. Please do me a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. And let's get this cracking, because not only are we going to talk about what's next for Islam Makhachev, we're also going to talk about the Islamic life versus Western materialism. Now, why is it that I'm bringing that up with an Islam Makhachev victory? Well, I noticed that obviously Islam Makhachev and Team Khabib, they run their team a little bit differently than everybody else. How is it that they run their team? Honestly, it is literally the quintessential idea of what socialism is. Now, there's so much stigma behind that, and make no mistake about it, I am a person that believes in individual accountability 100% to the max, but there is something to be said of analyzing different thought process of people. In the Western world, you're taught individualism, meaning that you go out and you get your own apartment, you get away from your parents, you have different incomes, and now you have different spendings of different rents. So now you guys are separated from each other. Shout out to Tom Potts. He says he's from the UK. We got a lot of UK people in here. Shout out to you, my man. Obviously, I am from Sacramento, California. So shout out to you. All right. Just living the life, sending the gift. Shout out to you. Says hi. Man, let me know what part of the world you are from, my man. Appreciate the love and the recognition. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to James. So let's get this thumbnail going. I actually have to put a thumbnail for this live stream first and foremost, and then we'll get it cracking right here. So he says he is from Ohio. Shout out to Ohio. Shout out to everybody from around the world. By the way, guys, don't forget to not only hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, but if you did not watch this from the very beginning of the minute, watch from very beginning to end later on. But obviously you are in the live stream right now, so even perfect, because we're going to get cooking as as the time goes on right now. So I talked about the fight briefly. I talked about the ideas of Western materialism as opposed to the Islamic way of how Khabib runs his team. Now, I saw this particular promo that Khabib did, right? And I believe that the promo consisted of Khabib being asked, what do you compare your fighters to in terms of, let's say, cars, right? For example, he compared Islam as Mercedes G Wagon, pound for pound, best car out there when it comes to speed and also when it comes to size and being an overall effective SUV, right? But he also mentioned something that I thought was really telling, and let me tell you what that is, right? He mentioned that Abu Bakr tried to buy a car without the permission of the team. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, you're a professional fighter. You need permission to go and buy a car from another grown man. But of course, you got to understand, even me as a Muslim who grew up in the West, this is still also a very foreign idea to me. But in their culture and in many Islamic cultures, they have this idea where we're going to have a collective outlook on how we're going to spend our resources. But not only that, also have this hierarchy where if you are older than me, then I take precedence in terms of decision making and also the leadership that comes with that group dynamic, right? This is how Khabib and his team operate. So, as a result of that, you see that there is a contrast in the way that his team runs their finances. Also, let's not even talk about how they run their training. That's a whole separate conversation from this particular topic. But also, just that alone, right? Materialism is not something they are driven by, it's not individualism. But because of that, one has to ask the fair question: is that better for MMA in terms of having a team around you like that? And I think the answer is yes. I think that they have proven that time in and time out in terms of understanding that, hey, you know what? Uh, we can help each other out. You see, Khabib, he was world champion. Not only that, became the biggest pay per view star in all of MMA. And as a result of that, we're going to have Islam reap the benefits of that, the training, the knowledge. And then Usman comes along. Umar, even though he is not right up there with Islam, Khabib, and Usman as a championship level, he's right up there with Marab, who right now arguably is the number one 135er right now, if not ever. Right? I mean, we're talking about 4 title defenses in 1 year. We're coming up with Peter Yan in the December card. Alam says Islam Makhachev. He says, by the way, can you say my name? Can you say my channel name? The end. Okay. Tom Potts. I guess that's how you say your name. Okay. He said pound to pound. You mean pound for pound, but I know what you mean. Yes. I think there's a little bit of an error in how you would interpret that. So yeah, that is just something to be said, right? The aspect of Western materialism as opposed to the simplistic, hierarchical way that Khabib and his team sort of run their finances, resources, and how they conduct their team, right? Very unheard of. Where, look, here's the thing that I notice, right? And this is something that I've heard from a psychologist where they talk about how a narcissist, right? A lot of the people that are around a narcissist never really prosper. They never really end up doing anything good. They never end up doing anything positive or moving up to the next level. And why is that? Because the narcissist wants to constantly keep you down. Now, whereas with Islam and his team, I got to tell you, this is the perfect team you want to train with when it comes to people that are selfless, people that are looking out for your best interests, people that also, here's the important kicker about all of this, right? People who don't have a sense of jealousy against you. Because I got to tell you, man, one of the biggest diseases that plague a lot of families and individuals in the Western world is selfishness. That is one of the greatest things that really plague the majority of people around the world. Selfishness, right? It has to be about what I want or what is good for me, and then F everybody else. Whereas with this team, over and over again, they have proven that it does nothing but good to do good onto others. Okay, and it's very simple. Think about this, right? People always say fundamentalist is, Muslims or fundamentalist Islamic extremists or something to that effect, right? People always like to throw that particular card out there. Well, I say this, right? I say that what exactly is Islamic fundamentalism? Really, it's just all about the fundamentals, what it is that you don't do. For example, I don't eat pork. How about Shanto? They call him John Pork, right? But that is obviously a slide shot at the fact that we as Muslims forbid ourselves from eating pork. And so they sort of call Shan Cho, which sounds like John Pork, as a way to throw pun in his name, but in turn, sort of doing an adverse effect, giving him a certain popularity that I don't think many people would have anticipated. Obviously, he has a style for it as well. Now he's got a storyline background to go along with it, and that goes into him beating up Dylan Danis. And I often seen the two contrasting nature of this whole entire argument with Dylan Danis, right? Now, from the reports that I've been told, and with good authority, many people have said that Dylan Danis was holding up a picture of Islam Makhachev and Ali Abdelaziz in an AI setting, right? So, in a very haram matter, right? Let's just say that. And he's going around flashing this to everybody as he's walking by them. So it's kind of like you play stupid games. What exactly do you win? You win stupid prizes. He got jumped into his troubles. All the money that he spent for that UFC card to sit there as a fan. By the way, not as a VIP guest or as a guest of honor to any kind, but as a fan that he spent out of his own money down to waste. Also, the same thing with Sean Cho and the other Team Eagle Dagestani guys. What happened with them? Well, unfortunately, they got sent back to the locker room, not even the locker room, the hotel, and they had to complete the whole entire event from that setting rather than actually sitting in the actual arena where they were just at hours prior, right? So they were not exempt from any of this at all. But gangster on Dana White to not even decide to press charges on the so-called culprits of this matter, right? Very gangster of him to not do so. And he said in exact words, well, why did he not press charges? Okay, let's kind of delve into that a little bit, right? Why did Dana White not press charges when all of that happened? The reason why is because Dana White understands that it's the fight business. He knows that by allowing this to go on, what he did was create a haven of unpredictability. Not only unpredictability, a haven of insanity that could create different storylines in the future settings and the future events and promotions of the UFC, i.e., the Dolly attack that you've seen prior to UFC 229, which, by the way, took place in UFC 223, where Khabib had first won his championship against Alayaquenta. He says, Ahman 420 says, Dana is a real man. Shevchenko, nice work. Yes, that was good work. You know what? If you guys noticed in the live stream, I literally mentioned that what Shevchenko is doing right now is going to be very similar as to what Islam Makhachev is going to do as the fight progresses into his fight, right? He says, Hezbollah, yes, that's a very good promotion for Islam Makhachev. Obviously creates a new mystique to him being tied to somebody like that, right? Because look, man, Hezbollah is a beloved figure in MMA, right? So being attached to him, and then on top of the fact that he's attached to Islam Makhachev and Khabib, that creates that creates a really positive promotional value for both of their brands. So Dylan Danis, right? Dana White says that he's never going to fight in the UFC. I think that's a lie. He says that Dylan Danis is banned from the UFC. I don't think that's a lie, but I think the minute that, let's say, if there's an opportunity to sign Dylan Danis, perhaps maybe uh, signing Dylan Danis will also mean bringing him back to come and attend events, which, by the way, will cause even more trouble and grief and pain. And even though Dana White says he doesn't like it and it's something that they have to nip in the butt, at the same time, it is something that they can use as a promotional value. Ahmad says, I am from Dagestan, bro. Nice to meet you. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to everybody in Dagestan. Obviously, you guys are probably very happy with the results of Islam Makhachev's win, as you should. And also, what else did I forget to mention in this? Oh, yes. Okay, so obviously, Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. That's also another thing that I forgot to mention here. Let me see if I can, add this into the title. There we go. Shunko. Okay, that's how you pronounce it. Shunko. Okay, got it. So, all right. I wanted to add that in there. So, okay, obviously, Paul versus AJ, right? We're gonna get to that topic right now. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so Jake Paul versus AJ signed. This is a matchup that is signed, by the way. Jake Paul versus AJ is signed straight off the bat. And I'm going to tell you why. So Eddie Hearn has once mentioned something to the effect that, hey, you know what? I want Anthony Joshua to go out there and get a few rounds, right? Get the feeling of being in a fight night, wrap the gloves, not even a 10 rounder, not obviously not a 12 rounder, right? Not having any championship aspirations in the moment after getting knocked out by Dubois, but just getting the rounds, getting the feeling of being in there. Who do they find? They find Jake Paul. Now, how did Jake Paul get here? Well, I think it's really that simple. I think Jake Paul owes Netflix some money. Yes, I honestly do. At what capacity? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. I can speculate. Could it be, let's say, the pay-per-views that he's had with Anderson Silva became a flop? Could it be the Tommy Fury fights where he failed to deliver a win and that could have propelled him into a next matchup that would have been even more lucrative for him in Netflix, right? Or whatever it is. So there's a lot of speculations and hypotheses that you could come up with and you don't really know. But everything that you smell and understand about the fight business sort of steers in that direction. It steers in a direction that Jake Paul seems desperate for money. It steers in a direction that reigns a lot of suspicion in terms of his true intentions. And also being the fact that you have a guy who literally predicated his whole entire boxing career, very similar to that of Floyd Money Mayweather, in terms of picking the right fights at the right time, right? All these MMA fighters that he picked out, what was the common denominator? Well, the common denominator was that many of them were way past their prime. And as a result of being way past their prime, he goes and signs them to a boxing match against him, which, by the way, works more towards his favor in terms of being the better and developed boxer at that time, and even more athletic and younger guy. And then on top of the fact that these guys are on the decline in terms of physical damage as they've sustained throughout their MMA career, and that being Nate Diaz. I'm sorry, not Masvidal. Nate Diaz. Ben Askren, who else? Anderson Silva, Mike Perry, all these MMA fighters that Jake Paul has taken on. Right? So, right place at the right time. It seems that he's nitpicking. So, why would he choose Anthony Joshua, the most dangerous option? Well, it only leads to the conclusion that perhaps maybe he needs money, maybe perhaps that having a lot of bodyguards and having a lot of staff around you costs a lot of money. And as a result, you have to deliver and you have to get paid because Gervonta Davis is out for whatever reason. And now the only option you have left is a dangerous matchup, but also not just equal to the amount of dollars that Gervonta Davis could have brought in, but also even more so, not just equal, but even a higher payday than what Gervonta Davis could have offered, but a dangerous outing nonetheless, right? Or is it that Jake Paul has taken all the steroids in the world and understands that, hey, you know what? Maybe I do have a chance to get in here and make a great account of myself, but also even win. Maybe Anthony Joshua is on decline. But rest assured, I can tell you if there is one person that is funding this whole entire process behind the scenes, look no further than the man who actually wanted this fight in the first place, Turki Al-Sheikh. He wanted this fight in the first place because he wanted to find out a couple of things, right? He wanted to find out if Anthony Joshua was worthwhile having later on in his twilight of his career, as we are seeing right now, sort of on a decline, right? Can he continue on into championship levels? Well, obviously, that notion was proved disastrous against Dubois. But this isn't Daniel Dubois. There are other competitions out there. There's the Tyson Fury fight. So if he loses this fight, what happens with a Tyson Fury fight? Obviously, Tyson Fury is not going to be interested. And what is Tyson Fury going to do? He's going to call Anthony Joshua a bloody dosser. You're a bum, AJ. You're a bloody bum. You can't even beat a YouTuber. My own brother beat that bum, and you couldn't even do it. Dosser, dosser. That's exactly what he would do, and that's exactly what he would say. He would pile on. That's similar to what John Jones did, piling on to the eye poke, no contest, perceived loss of Tom Aspinall, right? He just continued poking and digging at that whole entire, process. But make no mistake, man, that's what we have going on with this fight. It is actually interesting, even though in the back of our minds, we know that AJ will win it. What do I mean by when I say that it is interesting, but in the back of my minds, we know that AJ is going to win it? Well, what I mean by that is, as always, we've always used the resume or the status quos of resumes and authoritative legislative stamps on particular athletes or boxers, right? Well, now we have Anthony Joshua, who is as legit as they come, irregardless of whatever result may have came to his last fight. He is still the highest level and also the heaviest punching boxer that Jake Paul has ever faced. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics in this, right? Because is Anthony Joshua too old? Well, that's what Turki Al-Sheikh wanted to know. But what he also wanted to do was ultimately end the circus of Jake Paul. And I think that if Jake Paul, and again, I'm only hypothesizing, I'm not saying this to be true to any degree, and we don't know, this is all mere speculation for the art of entertainment, right? And it goes something like this. He probably knows and understands that his place in professional boxing right now is that of high importance in terms of being uh, a promoter, an important figure in the world of promotions in boxing. Look at what he did with the Amanda Serrano career, and also Katie Taylor being a recipient of that promotion, even though she was on the opposite end of MVP, representing Matchroom with Eddie Hearn. But on any regard, uh, impactful. So I think as a fighter, it may be that he is ready to pack it in. And if he's going to pack it in, he's going to go out big with a bang. And maybe it won't be the last time he fights, depending on what type of sustainable injury he suffers from this. But one thing we can understand is that even if he was to lose badly and lose to the point where he would have to vacate himself from his professional settings of being a boxer and a fighter, he still has a place as a promoter, right? And will cash out even more after the Anthony Joshua fight. So he has an Anthony Joshua fight. He cashes out on that. Next thing you know, there's another fight where he is promoting elsewhere and doing his own thing. And as a result, uh, he's cashing out in that as well. That is also all of the possibilities that we can, truly decipher from all of this. So, all right, what else? What else do we have going on with this one? I think we have UFC Qatar going on this weekend. We also have Joseph Benavidez taking on Anthony Yarde. And by the way, credit to Anthony Yarde, right? There's not a lot of people right now that are willing to fight David Benavidez. And in fact, that is the reason why we are in this fight in the first place. Because let's be honest, right? David Benavidez should be fighting somebody like Canelo. Maybe even Hamza Shiraz. That's a good matchup right there. But for whatever reason, a lot of these guys are either busy or doing something else, or have other plans to skip right around David Benavidez and then go to the next guy to get the next best opportunity, while avoiding David Benavidez, who is the boogeyman of the 175 division of boxing right now. So now, who steps up to the plate? It is Anthony Yarde. Anthony Yarde went to fight Kovalev at the time when Kovalev was dangerous. By the way, for those of you that don't understand boxing or know the historical background of these guys or their stats, Kovalev obviously has had his own controversies in the streets outside of the boxing ring, but was a man that actually unalived somebody in the boxing ring. Okay, and then Anthony Yarde went on to go and fight this guy. And when he went on to go fight this guy, what happens? He goes and Jin says, "Can you say, yeah, I'm not going to say all that. Thank you, though, man. But for those of you that are in the chat that want to show that you can read it, go ahead." He says, "What is happening?" What do you mean, what is happening? Well, we are talking about UFC. Islam Makhachev becoming a double champ. What are his next potential fights? He says it's 45 letters long. Wow, yeah, that's a lot of words, my man. And you, my man, literally took time out of your day to write that. That is crazy. But I will be sure to screenshot that and try to read that on my own later. I don't want to get tossed out of the topic that I'm trying to get at. But yeah, Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. Nobody wants to fight Anthony Joshua as well, even though Dubois beat him. There's a lot of guys that are moving up in the heavyweight divisions right now that Anthony Joshua could fight. But you know what? That's the thing, right? Tyson Fury is not out there, really pushing the line to fight Anthony Joshua. At least maybe if he beats Jake Paul, because imagine that would make the Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight even bigger, right? It would make it even bigger if he were to fight Jake Paul, regardless of the result. I mean, obviously he would have to win, but yeah. Mike Long says, I had to mow my lawns in the rain today, but my memory is secured. How is it going? Good, my man. Shout out to you. He says, Amir says, hello, do you remember me? Remind me, Amir. Let me know. I've seen many Amirs here before. You're going to have to refresh my memory if you can, please. So, all right, let's hear what MMA Guru had to say about Dylan Danis getting jumped.
Just being able to influence.
Dylan Danis got jumped at UFC 322 by a bunch of Dagestanis, damn near 10 versus 1, and it was more entertaining than the main and co-main event of the card combined. And I'm going to break it down in today's video. There's a ton of context. There's a bunch of things going on here. Dylan Danis was wandering around in the fighter section. Maybe he shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have been. He's a fat...
All right, so they're saying that he was wandering around in the fighter section, which means exactly what? I think the indication of that is that Dylan Danis was there to be a provocateur, and a provocateur he was. And as a result, there it is.
He's not really a UFC fighter, I understand. But there's clips of him shaking hands with George St. Pierre and talking to him and getting along with him and a bunch of other fighters as well. And
well, look, of course he's going to get along with other fighters, right? He's not going to absolutely just hate everybody, but what it seems is that obviously there's a lot of animosity in the Dagestani side of things, also on the Muslim side of things, right? You know, the man says a lot of anti-Islamic comments, and as a result, this is what he gets out of that reality. Republicanism Vance says, "Yo, Kyrie, what's up, brother?" Shout out to you, Republicanism Vance. Shout out to you, my man. Hope you are enjoying the stream and hope you are having a good day, my man.
And then he got too close to the vicinity of Team Khabib, and they just jumped him 8 versus 1, 10 versus 1. A security guard got hit in the head by a Dagestani guy with a chair. Some random fan got jumped as well, just by being there. I'm pretty sure. I don't even know if he had any affiliation with Dylan Danis, but he got jumped by a bunch of Dagestanis as well.
So a random fan got jumped. My assumption is that he probably did something to provoke the other guys, and obviously he was at a place at the wrong time that he should have been. And you know, sometimes fans get a little bit overboard, right? They see their favorite fighter get into a fight with another one of their favorite fighters. They want to jump in because they feel like they know that guy. So there's a lot of that going on as well.
They dragged him to the ground. They punched him in the back of the head a bunch of times. And this was all started, by the way, by John Pork. This guy right here. You may know...
Yeah, see, I don't like the whole calling him John Pork thing. Obviously, that's a slide on the fact that he's a Muslim, and that's why they call him that. But yeah.
Of John Pork, okay? He starts punching Dylan Danis in the back of the head. But the footage that recently came out showing the start of the brawl shows that Shanko, a.k.a. John Pork, threw the first punch that initiated the brawl. Danis walked into the area, and this was a premeditated attack. Abubakar Nurmagomedov, who's being held on the ground in this clip here by Dylan Danis, wrestled to the ground by Dylan Danis, one of Khabib's cousins. I know they're all cousins, but officially a cousin of Khabib. He took his hat off and gave it to his friend. They knew this was going down. When they saw Danis, they were going to go for him. And Shanko started the brawl, and he's even, like, happily discussing why he chose to attack Dylan Danis at UFC 322. It's kind of wild. They have had no punishment because Dana White, his response to this is to ban Dylan Danis from being...
Hey, check it out. So how crazy is it? Dana White called the people that were jumping Dylan Danis the Muslim Brotherhood, right? He called it, I know he didn't mean to call him the Muslim Brotherhood, but there's an obvious entire Muslim Brotherhood organization, right? And I don't think Dana was aware of what he was saying in that context. By the way, funny enough, here's a comment that I'm going to read from Vance, right? He says, I say it every time. This dude, meaning he's talking about me, is the GOAT because he lets you speak your mind without any bias towards your own opinion. During the Charlie Kirk assassination, he let people speak even if it was bad. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, it was definitely bad. And they were saying a lot of bad things for sure. You're right, man. Yeah, W for Kyrie. Shout out to you on that, my man.
At the UFC. You will never see Dylan Danis at a UFC fight ever again. That's what Dana White has decided to do here. They jumped him 10 versus 1, 8 versus 1. Not the first time they've done this at all. I'm going to go through the clip of this in a second, by the way. But this isn't the first time these guys have done something like this. And it's not the first time they've done it to Dylan Danis.
So, okay, they're complaining about jumping Dylan Danis, and they are going back referencing UFC 229, right? And look, I understand the numbers game, right? 10 on 1, this and that. Bro, when you got beef with somebody, the numbers game doesn't matter. These guys already fight in the cage for competition, for money. This is not for competition or money. This was for beef. Okay, not every fight. Listen, not every fight that a professional fighter does, okay, is going to be for money. Sometimes it's going to be out of the protection of your family, the protection of your friends, so on and so forth, right? That's the reality of the situation. But I think there's a strong number of people out there that oppose what the Dagestanis did. And primarily because a lot of these people are free speech advocate. They believe that you should be able to say horrible things about Muslims. Well, guess what? Khabib's team doesn't believe in that. He doesn't believe that you can just say whatever you want about Muslims. Look, here's the thing, right? You guys know about the Charlie Hebdo shooting that happened in France, right? That person who made that comic, personally, I wouldn't do anything to that person. Okay? This is me telling you guys on YouTube right now. I wouldn't personally do anything to that guy. But that does not mean there aren't people out there that are willing to do it, especially in a very radicalized Muslim section of France. Okay? That is the reality of it. Look, you're going to have Muslims like me that are just going to let bygones be bygones. You say what you're going to say. I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and that's that. And then we're going to have a discourse. This is the reason why I believe that you should be able to say what you want, because if you're going to have anything negative to say about Islam, I have to be intellectual enough or knowledgeable enough of the religion to defend it. And more so times I am, right? I have enough knowledge to defend a religion and its ideological practice, its background, also the methodologies behind it, and the historical context of verses and hadiths and things of that nature. So, yes, I should be able to have a discourse with anybody in terms of Islamic uh differences that you may have, or maybe that I may have as a Muslim myself amongst other Muslims. But it doesn't mean that other Muslims are going to be as generous with their time and their effort of debating with you. Sometimes they don't want to debate, they will just go after you, and yeah, and that's that. Daily Dose says Islam dominated JDM, so he is top 5 GOAT. John Jones, GSP, DJ Silva, and Makhachev. That's crazy. Wow. Well, that's quite a good list, right? I can't disagree with that list. Obviously, that's what they mean when they say that he has surpassed Khabib. So here we go. He says John Pork, Sean Cho, and then here's my man from Dagestan correcting y'all, telling y'all Sancho. But all right, let's get back to the reaction to Dylan Danis getting jumped here.
They jumped the cage at UFC 229 McGregor versus Khabib, the biggest fight of all time. and jumped McGregor in the cage. This guy being held on the...
Oh, yeah. Probably the highest pay-per-view in all of MMA's history. Daily Dose says, no Chan Cho this John Pork.
Ground by Dylan Danis, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, jumped the cage. Zubaira Tukhugov too jumped the cage at 229 into the octagon and started beating up Conor McGregor. These same guys are the reason the McGregor-Herbie beef started in the first place. When it got crazy, when McGregor threw the dolly at the bus, it's because they cornered Artem Lobov ages ago backstage because he's Team McGregor and they were shit-talking back and forth. Habib said, where's your chicken? Ireland, 6 million, Russia, 150 million. And this has happened many times before with these Dagestanis where they jumped people 10-on-1 and cornered.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. That's kind of hard to argue, right? I mean, given the fact that McGregor and Khabib at the time were on a trajectory of sort of bumping heads with each other, right? Being at the right spot at the right time at 155, right? It was inevitable for this to happen. But by the end of it, it became a whole lot more personal than what it should have been. And I don't know, man. I think that most people would come and fly halfway across the world to defend the honor of their homie, and that's probably the reason why Conor did what he did with the Dolly bus in the first place. Look, I'm giving you guys a very objective take on this matter, right? This is the way that I look at it, right? Conor threw that Dolly to the bus because he thought to himself, I am dealing with men that come from extreme violence. Okay, you look at the years that Dagestan and Russia has gone to war, right? Extreme violence. So what did Conor need to do to counteract this level of violence that these Dagestanis are able to withstand, push, and also seen and experience in their own anecdotal path that they've that they've seen in their life, right? Well, what do? You go and shock them by throwing a dolly. I mean, look, whether it really shocked them or not, that is up for Khabib and his team to know, right? But that merely is the understanding and the attempt of why Conor McGregor did what he did is basically for shock and awe value. Okay, because he's dealing with people that have been around warlords, sectarian violence, and religious wars, jihad, and everything in between.
Them, and they've just done it to Dylan Danis, and Dana White's response is to ban Dylan Danis from ever being at the UFC ever again. It's pretty wild stuff, and there's a bunch of angles of this to go through, but we're going to start with how it started, but we're going to start with the first clip that came out because I knew this was them. When this happened, let me get John Pork off the screen. I said there's a massive brawl in the crowd right now at UFC 322. DC was reacting to it on the broadcast. And I said, I'm going to guess that it's most definitely involving Dylan Danis versus some Dagestanis.
Damn, yeah. You know what? MMA Guru did say that while all the fights were going on, and he was, he was on the ball on that one.
Maybe even Dylan Danis versus John Pork. Hey, main and co-main event predictions weren't the best on that card, but I had this one down to a T. And that's what happened. So let's get it started right here. Things kick off. Everybody's being escorted away from each other, getting dragged away, and Dylan Danis...
He says Khabib would be so proud of John Pork, for sure. He says this guy, Paul, a.k.a. John Pork, he's a two-time professional Muay Thai champion. Indeed he is, right? And that is what's fascinating about him, right? Obviously, he comes from a Dagestani team where they emphasize a lot of wrestling, but they also really emphasize just well-rounded MMA, period. And I think he is the striking factor to that team. You would imagine a guy like Sean Cho was a guy that was training Islam for not only Volkov, but also JDM. And maybe even Charles Oliveira as well, right? Because he's got good Muay Thai. So he's been given Islam Makhachev a lot of good looks over the years when it comes to high-level striking. And it is no wonder why Islam's striking looks like the way that it does. Daily Dose Motivation says, call him by his name, John Pork. No, I will not. You can call him whatever you want, but I'm not going to call him that.
In a mix of it, with Shanko, John Pork on his back, another Dagestani here being held back. They're jumping him. Dagestani's being held in like a headlock and dragged away from the scene of it all here. It's a pretty wild situation. They're trying to hold him back. A bunch of security guards are trying to stop these Dagestanis from attacking Dylan Danis. There's one right here as well with the hat that's trying to join in on everything. It's pretty wild. This guy's being held back as well. Pretty wild situation. They're having to headlock these guys away. And Danis is just in the mix, getting hit in the back of the head. He's got Abubakar Nurmagomedov on the ground.
I got to tell you, man, getting hit in the back of the head is not ideal, right? It's really not ideal at all. Not only is it not ideal, it can cause you a lot of serious damage in the long run. Like some real serious damage. But yeah, let's continue on here.
Cousin of Khabib, UFC fighter, former UFC fighter, was shit. Got cut. He's the guy who jumped in the cage at UFC 229. I don't know why he's allowed at the event, while Danis was never going to be allowed back ever again. But he's like on the ground after being wrestled to the ground by Dylan Danis, and he's grabbing on Dylan Danis' jumper here, while Shanko, John Pork himself, is throwing back of the head shots at Dylan Danis from behind. Bang. Massive back of the head shot.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, there's some good shots right there in terms of actually capturing that on video.
Another big shot to the back of the head as well. He was getting in some mean ones on Dylan Danis there. One more time. Some decent shots. A little crafty uppercut as well. They're just jumping Dylan. They're all on Dylan. This guy here as well. You can tell by the no mustache, the bald head, and the beard. This guy's Team Dagestan as well. And he's getting in there to try and land his own shots on Dylan Danis. And he's grabbing. Look at Dylan. How is he up from the back of the head shots? He's getting hit in the back of the head here by a guy with the white shirt.
It's called adrenaline. Yeah, definitely adrenaline. All right. Well, listen, enough of this. I think you guys get the point. He got jumped, so on and so forth. Let's take a look at what it is that they did right after the fact, right? Because obviously they had to go back to their hotel room. But let's check out what that is right here. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find the footage of that. I remember posting it. Let's see here. Okay, right here. Here we go.
Отлично! Islam double champ! На хате се сварили. Отлично! Islam double champ! На хате се сварили. История умалчивает почему.
All right, so basically that's what they were saying, right? Yeah. Now, does everybody know why we're in here in this room celebrating, and then they cut to the scene of of the jumping going on? All right, so I know we're jumping back and forth with just different stories right here. So yeah, that we'll obviously keep more coverage on that. Whether in a live stream or in a video, we'll see. I've been doing a lot of live streams more than videos. Obviously, it's just the quickest way to get your content out there. But all right, Ariel Helwani. Okay, breaking news of Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul being official. And then right after we get off on this, we're going to preview this weekend's fights with David Benavidez, Anthony Yarde, and obviously Devin Haney is in that card as well. Has a tough matchup, an unknown fighter, but nonetheless, yeah, we're going to get to that. Also, UFC Qatar. We're going to preview all of that. Let's hear what Ariel Helwani had to say and react to this early on. So, Oh, how about this? A John Kavanaugh interview.
Now, first,
we woke up this morning to the news.
Wow. Okay, so he had a John Kavanaugh interview today. Okay, well, that should be interesting. All right.
That it is in fact happening on the 19th of December, 2025, live on Netflix. No pay-per-view, just a subscription required. I believe 300 or so million subscribers all across the world. It's Jake versus Joshua, as they're dubbing it, Judgment Day, a professional heavyweight bout, 8 rounds, 10-ounce gloves. Jake Paul versus Anthony freaking Joshua. Kaseya Center, Miami, Florida. Professional bout, I repeat. No exhibition, none of that meshugas. The only...
All right, so that's important to know, right? Obviously, this is not, like any, what do you call it? It's not an exhibition like with Mike Tyson or even what Vitor Belfort did with Evander Holyfield, even though obviously Vitor was going for broke on that one. Nonetheless, yeah, that wasn't really anything like that. It wasn't a professional bout. This counts. This is going to go in their record, whether it's a win for Jake Paul or whether it's a loss for Jake Paul. He says, sorry, I'm late. Yeah, no problem, my man. We all got a life, outside of, online, of course. You know what I mean? That's not a problem, man. Welcome, man. Very glad you are here, of course. Always privileged, to have you here, of course, my man. So, all right, let's hear on the details that Ariel Hawani has regarding this particular subject.
The stipulation, if you will, is that it has been revealed via MVP and their press release that Joshua cannot weigh more than 245 pounds. Now, the last time Joshua weighed under 245 pounds was his fight against Alexander Usyk, his second.
Oh, nice. Okay, helping Nate Davies. Okay, getting ready for that fight. About 3 weeks out now. Okay, good. So obviously, had to pull out of that fight due to an opponent. Obviously, no fault of Nate Davies, and then obviously having to reschedule after that. By the way, I'm glad that you mentioned that because that's very similar to what Jake Paul is doing right now, right? So all fighters, whether it's in MMA or boxing or in the big shows or regional shows, they all go through the same things, right? A lot of rescheduling changes, right? They said that they scrapped the whole card last time. Wow, man, that is crazy, right? The last time I've seen a card get scrapped because of one fight, obviously, was John Jones and Dan Henderson, right? That fight, Dan Henderson pulled out. Chael Sonnen was the replacement. John was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to fight a guy on short notice like that, especially with what he saw he did to Anderson Silva for 4 to 5 rounds up until Anderson Silva in the last minute threw up a Hail Mary, type of, football play and caught a touchdown at the end of the final quarter, right? So, yeah, man.
Second fight against Alexander Usyk back in August of 2022. Since then, wins over the likes of...
Sometimes it's very dangerous to take short notice fights, right? Sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes it's more lucrative for you, or sometimes it's a good matchup for you. My question is, where does Jake fall under that category with his choice of wanting to take this fight on with Anthony Joshua?
Jermaine Franklin, Robert Helenius, Otto Wallin, Francis Ngannou. And the last time we saw Anthony Joshua fight was back in September of 2024, Wembley Stadium, the fight against Daniel Dubois, the fight in which he lost via knockout in the 5th round. One of the great experiences of my life to be there in person.
Yes, that was a crazy fight, right? And obviously, Anthony Joshua has a lot to prove on that one. Like what I told you guys earlier, Eddie Hearn said, I want Anthony Joshua to get in there, get with the motion, right? Get the feeling of getting your hands wrapped, get the feeling of going out for a walk, because it's not a Tyson Fury fight, right? And then on top of that, it's the most lucrative fight for the easiest deal that they could find. And that's merely what they are looking to get out of this whole entire situation. So with Jake Paul, we don't know. Is it because he owes Netflix money? Is it because he owes his entire event, his whole entire promotion, and his distributors, whether that would be Netflix or other TV productions around the world, because of the scrapped Gervonta Davis fight? But either way, he had to adjust. Victory says if Jake is competitive against Joshua, then I'm going to really doubt the legitimacy of it. I think it'll be real, right? I don't think Jake Paul is dumb enough to do that. Plus, he had run ins with the feds, right? Because of gun run ins. So I think he kind of understands his place in that entire dynamic. So all right, let's get to UFC Qatar real quick, right? I want to get to UFC Qatar and sort of give you a little bit of a preview on that. And so let's see, UFC Qatar. And then obviously another Middle Eastern card this week, Benavidez versus Yarde. We're going to take a look at that. So obviously the Qatar card is headlined by Arman and Hooker. I thought it was Bilal and Ian Gary, but obviously they felt that Arman and Dan Hooker were more of the A side in comparison to everybody here. He says, "Were you doing a duel live before I got here? A duel live? No. I think I may have put one up, and then obviously I had scraped that one and then just went with this one. Yeah, it was probably like one of those things." He says, "Why is the screen so small today?" Because I'm doing a vertical stream. So, all right. UFC Qatar, right? First time ever in the history of the UFC in Qatar. Did you guys see the promo? The promo was Arman, Hooker, Muhammad, and Ian Gary all as giants walking across Doha looking like Godzilla and King Kong, right? Well, that is how big this fight card is for their country. Okay, it may not be big for the non-hardcore Western fans, but rest assured, this is a big event for Qatar because, like all sports, what are they made to do? They are made to make a nation look great. They are made to make a nation look like, hey, you know what? Look, we have modern amenities like everybody else in Germany, in the United States, in England, in France, and all these other developed countries, right? And also, it is a tourist advertisement, to say the least. But all right, let's get to the cards here. Okay, we got Arman Sarukian taking on Dan Hooker. All right, obviously, Arman Sarukian talking about how much he makes during the fight, even with the financial backing that he has of his family, doesn't seem to be enough. Dan Hooker has all these crazy brawl-like, type of fights that he does. These viral fights that he has going on in New Zealand, where guys scrap it out for like 5 minutes, or sometimes do bare knuckle or whatever other types of weird bare knuckle backyard brawl tough man stuff that he promotes, right? So they are the two main event headliners of this fight. Bilal Muhammad, Ian Machado Gary. Obviously, Bilal Muhammad, former champion Ian Gary, trying to get right back up there. His only loss was against Shafkat. Very competitive fight. The 170 division is very competitive right now with Islam as the champion of that division. Obviously, Jack coming off of a loss, still competitive with these guys. Next fight after that, we got Volkan Ozdemir taking on Minfield, still doing a damn thing with Volkan Ozdemir. Minfield getting right up there. Jack Hermanson taking on Urabai. Sergey Spivak taking on Shamil Gaziev. Alex Perez taking on Osmu Alabayev. Luke Riley taking on Bogdan Grad. Yakiv taking on Sakara. Haraguchi taking on Ulanbek. Almakan taking on Topuria. That is Topuria's brother right there. Ryan Loder taking on Nadorov. Aliev taking on Rock. Isagmayev taking on Nicholas Dalby. And then Marek Buccio taking on Denzel Freeman. I believe Nicholas Dalby had taken on Darren Till at one point of his career. Let me make sure of that. I remember vividly he did fight Darren Till. Where is that? There it is. Yeah, he had a draw against Darren Till. Wow. And that was 10 years ago. How about that? Right? He had a draw with Darren Till 10 years ago. That was when Darren Till was on the come up. Let me read some of these questions right here. He says, yeah, that's why I asked, because the screen was different. He says, I know you're doing vertical, but it's usually the whole screen. Okay, not like the half screen. Oh, okay, got it. Because I think I try to invite somebody, and then I think Zane, or whatever, but it didn't work. So I may have just I may have just accidentally pressed the guest mode. So I think that's why. So I think that's why you're only seeing half of the screen. So yeah, sorry about that. I apologize if that is what you are seeing, but nonetheless, hey, we still got the stream going nonetheless, right? So, okay, so that is UFC Qatar going on this weekend. Next, let's preview Benavidez versus Yarde next week. Okay, so let's. All right, so. All right, so obviously it's a Middle Eastern card all throughout the weekend, right? We previewed UFC Qatar. Now, what about let's see here. What about David Benavidez versus Anthony Yarde? Let's preview that one real quick. Benavidez versus Yarde. Let's preview this one real quick right here. He says, yeah, I can't wait to see Gary versus Bilal. Yeah, that's going to be a good one, a good card. So, all right. And then next one, obviously, it is the Ring 4, right? How about that? Devin Haney is in that card as well. Abdullah Mason, Sam Noakes, Zane was pretty excited about that. Obviously, you guys know Zane is a boxing purist, knows all the big names in the UK and across the world as well. Jay Rodriguez versus Martinez also in the card. Obviously, a whole lot of different names in the undercard. Al Muhammad, I believe, is one of the guys that, Saudi Arabia is sort of trying to promote as well. He's in that card as well. So, this is the card that we have for this weekend right here. So Devin Haney, Brian Norman, 28-0. Okay, so we got some undefeated guys right here. Jesse Rodriguez versus Fernando Martinez, 18-0. Okay, that's a good fight. Okay, good fight, man. A lot of undefeated guys. Al-Khalil obviously taking on a journeyman right here because he's a Saudi project. Julio Porras, also Sultan Al Muhammad. Okay, so a new Saudi guy that they are bringing up as well. So yeah, the Saudis are heavily developing their boxing program as well, right? Obviously, their boxing program is something that they are emulating from the UK, right? The UK is sort of what they are emulating to that degree. But all right, guys, on any regard, look, that is all that I have for this one right now. I just wanted to come in here, get this one in real quick. There was a lot of news that was going on regarding all of these subjects and topics. I was planning on making a separate video for all of them. I just decided, you know what? Why not just, go on and do a live on it? And so I did. I did talk about these topics. So a little recap on this whole entire live event that we did right now. Obviously, Islam Makhachev, double champion. What was next for him? Topuria, Morales, right? Topuria has a chance to go for 3 weight world championships, right? And that's a great opportunity for him, obviously, with the rivalry that him and Islam Makhachev have going on, right? Also, we talked about the differences in Western materialistic individuality versus Islamic fundamentals, and how Islam and Khabib run their team, right? These guys can't do anything without asking permission from their team. Now, is that necessarily correct? Well, I tell you what, they're winning fights, they're doing something right. And it is definitely different in the Western ideals of individualism, where basically every single one of your family members are paying like 4 or 5 different types of rents, and then you guys wonder why you're always struggling all the time, right? That's the Western mindset, as opposed to the collectivism that they sort of build with the team cohesiveness, and sort of bringing at ease to whatever it is that they need for their mixed martial arts career, whatever resources they need to further propel them into the next level. So we talked about that. Obviously, Khabib and Islam spreading their wealth around their team and their fighters, but also deciding on their purchase, approving of their purchases. So what does that say about Western ideals? What does Western ideals say about this in contrast to how they live their lives? We also talked about Jake Paul and AJ having this fight. Is it ethical? Maybe not, but it is a fight that is going to be a lot of money for both parties, and it is money talks, BS walks, right? It's a motivational factor for a lot of people involved, and that is one thing that you can really rest assured and look at with this. We also took a look at the whole entire card for UFC Qatar, and also the ring boxing between Benavidez and Yarde as the headliner. All of this for November 22nd, 2025 fight weekend, right? How about that? Last week, we had Islam Makhachev versus JDM. Islam Makhachev makes a legendary ending to the UFC 322, and then 1 week later you got UFC Qatar and UFC, boxing Saudi Arabia to follow up. I mean, what a great time to be a combat sports fan nonetheless, man. All right, well, guys, listen, that is all that I have for this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one. During this week, I will try and jump on and do a few more videos. I will continue on doing the conference call combat sports radio that I do, right? Doing it a little bit old school radio form. I will continue doing that. I will drop some videos during the week. So thank you for hopping into live, tapping in, and don't forget to share, like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Also, I dropped some members only content as well that I urge you guys to check out. All right. Thank you for everyone around the world that's been supporting me, and also everyone that was tapped into the UFC 322 live stream. I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, inshallah.